I'm Alan Weiss, and this is The Writing on the Wall. Hi, I'm Alan Weiss, and welcome to episode 50, unbelievable, episode 50 of The Writing on the Wall. And I thought I'd use this opportunity to share some lessons learned. I thought that might be instructive for you. I know it will be instructive for me. And so, number one, you can't assume damage. Don't assume the other person's damaged. If you start from the proposition, from the mental set that the other person's damaged, things will not go well. Start from the proposition that the other person was smart enough to call you. They were smart enough to do business with you, and they are as healthy as you are. And only change that assumption if you see evidence to the contrary. It will start you on a healthier relationship and more rapidly produce quality business. Number two, there are more coaches than star performers. What you do and how you do something pales to my ability to be improved. And so a great coach can improve most people. There are a lot of people telling you that they can help you to ski, but they're sitting in the chalet with a brandy. I want a ski instructor who's ahead of me on the slopes, doing what I want to do, occasionally looking over their shoulder to make sure I'm still upright. There are too many coaches today who claim expertise but who don't demonstrate it. For my money, if you want a great coach, the coach has to be somebody who's been there and done that. They have to have done what you want to do, and repeatedly, not just a flash in the pan, not just one book, not just one song, not just one client. If you don't ask, you don't deserve it. The ultimate brand is your own name, and you've got to be willing to ask. I just suggested recently to Wiley, the publisher, that we do a book together. Now, I'm working on 3 or 4 other books for other publishers, but I had a great idea that was just perfect for John Wiley & Sons because we've done work in the past, and they love my books on consulting. And when I asked them, they got back to me and they said, that's exactly what we would love to do. We're so glad you asked us. We'll get a contract together. If you don't ask, you don't get. And so you have to have the confidence to ask, and you have to believe that you're good enough to do it. The ultimate brand is your name. Don't rely on anything else other than the good work that you've done. People don't buy through cold calls. People buy through some kind of reference. They buy through some kind of referral. They buy through some kind of knowledge of you. There are certain exceptions, though, where you can turn a cold call warm. In around about 1985, I got a call from a woman who said, Mr. Weiss, this is Carol Jones, and I believe you drive a Mercedes 450 SLC. I said, well, that's true. Why do you ask? She said, because we're selling some of the first car phones in New England that can be used 24 hours a day without problems, and we thought that somebody with your kind of a car would love to have one of these. And she said, we'll give you a free demonstration. I said, when can you come over? Now that hit a particular hot button because she knew something about me and she knew something about my proclivities. At the time, by the way, these phones were hardwired in. It was a handset hardwired into the dashboard. But before you knew it, I was calling London. I've never had a car without a car phone since then, with its own car phone, not just my cell. This car has a chip in it with its own private phone number. Don't cold call unless you have some way to turn it lukewarm. Do what you can to prevent problems, but also provide for contingencies. People have no smoking signs, they separate combustible materials, they're careful with their electrical lines, but they still have sprinklers and fire extinguishers and insurance. Never rely purely on preventive action. Effective preventive action is cheaper. In the long run, it prevents you the cost and the embarrassment, but you must have contingent actions because problems will occur anyway. So lesson learned, preventive, contingent, you need to have both. Fee follows value until it doesn't anymore. And by that I mean the lines cross. It makes sense that as value increases, fees increase, but the lines cross at a point where your name, I told you, is your brand, becomes that well known. And then people believe they get what they pay for. And so don't be afraid, as your brand becomes better known, as you become better known, to continue to increase your fees. Value will follow the fee. People will pay more. They'll expect to get what they pay for. I prepare, I show up, I do the best I can, and I go home. And that's the best attitude for all of us. Some things don't work out right. Sometimes it's the client's fault, sometimes it's our fault, sometimes it's a third party's fault, and sometimes it's nobody's fault. Things just don't work out. You prepare, you show up, you do the best you can, you go home. You can't do more than that. That's what life is about. Don't kick yourself around, don't beat yourself up, don't have a guilt trip. If you've done all that, you can't do more than that. Communities are the future of individual development. And as people partake more of communities, where people help each other reciprocally, that will be the future of development. Not so much classes, not so much workshops, not so much trade associations, but rather the ability to help each other in communities where we self-select, we want to be a part of because of the value that resides there. Influence is a matter of the other person's self-interest. If I want to change someone's behavior, I need to look into their self-interest and help them decide how it will be met. Telling someone that I'd like them to do something because I need this, or I'd like them to change their behavior because it would help me do that, is insufficient. If you're interested, read Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, which is a great source of techniques to use. But for me to sum it up, perhaps unkindly, if you want to change someone else's behavior, look at their self-interest, not your own. You can't learn if you're talking. Now, we all learn from experiences. I learned from doing these videos, and I'm the only one talking right now. And even if you're talking, I can't hear you. But normal discourse, you can't learn if you're speaking. That's why in a sales situation, you should speak less than 15% of the time. You should ask questions to prompt the other person to talk. Be quiet and listen. For you professional speakers out there, I know it's counterintuitive. Try it. Credentials and initials are trumped by language and intellect. Credentials and initials are trumped by language and intellect. I can string 14 initials after my name, no kidding. That and $2 will get me on a subway. People don't care about the initials you have. They don't care about the credentials you claim. What they care about is how they're going to be helped. And they'll best be helped listening to your language and appreciating your intellect. Language controls discussion, discussions control relationships, relationships control business. The more you command language, the more you have intellectual firepower, the better you'll be influencing and helping others. If you have no sense of humor, I'm not interested in you. Humor is a sign of intellect. If you can't laugh at yourself first, if you are so self-absorbed, if you are so egotistical, if you are so arrogant that you can't laugh at yourself, then I am not interested in you. And if your humor, such as it is disparaging humor of others, I'm not interested. But if you have a finely honed sense of humor, of the ironic, of your own foibles, and that gives you a perspective in life, I'm very interested in you. Humor is important in every condition, business and personal. And don't be afraid to exhibit it. It reduces stress, it releases endorphins, it does a tremendous amount to make you and the other person calmer and more confident. Your ego is the easiest part of your body to recover from a bruise. So don't let your ego stop you. Don't let your ego be so injured that you can't walk down the street. Don't let your ego incapacitate you and get you out of the game. Tuck your ego away. It's easy to hide, it's easy to protect. If it does get bruised, allow it to recover. It will take 9 seconds, if that. Don't let an ego bruise be something that incapacitates you and makes you vulnerable to what else is going on. Life is too short for cheap wine, and the second bottle of wine is always great. If you want unqualified love, get a dog. I have one here. No, you can't drive. Let's go, Koufax. Come on, Koufax. Get in the car. In the car. Good boy.